Hello, this is Blue Star, Defender of Equestria, and this is my next Afterthoughts review to My Little Pony Tell Your Tale, The Alicorn Path. In this episode, we don't really talk about much, it'll be just the conflict of good versus evil. Maybe next week we should discuss polymorphic recursive algorithms, because in some ways that would have been easier. But I'm so glad that they had this discussion, because as difficult as it was at some times, it was so cool to see Sunny come through it, especially with help from one of her friends. So yeah, this episode is almost by its very nature kind of difficult. I mean, it's only a discussion of, good versus evil, and that's always a difficult road to go down because people have been discussing, debating, like, forever. So in the context of a children's show, it's kind of difficult, and it's very easy for me to get pulled off track. So let's start from the beginning of this episode and move forwards. Sunny offers to go to the market, and then she finds herself in the mysterious room for the first time. And that was just so exciting in itself. And I liked that Misty is like, oh my gosh, Sunny, yay, you're here, yay! I get to share this amazing magic room with you, yay! And again, I'm glad that we got to see the mysterious room and Misty trading, because it's felt like we kind of forgot about that, and that kind of got pushed to the side. I was actually really interested to see where all that was going, because yeah, Misty's like the only pony that's actually trying to learn about unicorn magic, how to do it, and how to move forward with it. And I feel like she was almost going to be the quote-unquote Top Gun, and not necessarily being like the best at magic, but like the pilots that go to Top Gun, they then come back and then teach everyone else what they learned. So I'm glad that we got to see that moving forward a little bit. Yeah, the mysterious room and the mysterious voice are just such an interesting idea. So Sunny says, it's like, oh, Crystal B, you're just so full of surprises, and that is just so true. And I'm glad that we got to see a little bit more of the mysterious room and the mysterious voice, until Sunny asks a question involving this tapestry with these two Alicorn ponies on it, and the mysterious room, and almost in some ways just kind of shuts down as everything goes dark. And then when Misty asks about the Alicorns, basically it throws them both out. So, did we do something wrong? We just wanted to ask a question. That in itself is kind of interesting. Why does the Crystal Bright House essentially throw them out now, only to let Sunny back in later and ask the very same question? So, having a chance to think about it now, I almost feel like maybe the Crystal Bright House is almost trying to, quote-unquote, warn them off. You don't really want me to answer that question. And then when they try to ask again, it's like, I think it's time for you to leave. You're not ready for this yet. And as sort of what's said on Babylon 5, for everything, there is a time. Or I've had another thought of that, maybe this discussion was really meant only for Sunny, that I think that almost the lesson of this episode is that, yeah, you're going through something hard, you don't have to face it alone. At the same time, maybe at the beginning of this had to be a quote-unquote a private moment between sort of the Crystal Bright House and Sunny. After they've had that moment, that Misty is supposed to help Sunny through it. This is a difficult thing. I mean, Sunny basically asks, as an Alicorn, what is my destiny? And she doesn't really like the answer, so, It almost feels like this is almost a variant of be careful what you wish for, you might just get it. Here it's more like, be careful what questions you ask, because you may not like the answer. So, the Crystal Bright House basically shows her, you could either be this amazing Alicorn that helps ponies and makes the world a better place, and obviously says what her element and brings hope and joy and everything to all the ponies, or you could be evil and just hungered for power until it consumes you. And I think that's the thing that makes this so hard for Sunny, because that's a scary thought that, I could either be good or evil, I could either help ponies, or I could do all these horrible things to them. Just like that pony that I had to fight all this time, and we saw how she was defeated and what happened to her. I don't want to be the next Opaline and have all that happen to me, so that's what makes it so interesting that, yeah, this isn't so much about the past as it is about Sunny's future. She's asked, what does it mean to be an Alicorn? And she's given the two paths that basically an Alicorn can go down. The same paths that any of us could go down. She falls to the fear that I think we all have, especially children have at some point. Could I be a bad pony? Could I do these terrible, horrible things? Could this happen to me? Switching into, the thing that I think everyone's thinking, that this is Celestia and Luna, and This is totally the kind of thing that happened with Nightmare Moon and Celestia, but I really don't think that's what happened here. From the mysterious voices dialogue, it does kind of feel like they're talking about, Alicorns as a whole. Like, from the very beginning, there were some Alicorns that were good, and there were some Alicorns that were bad. They're not saying, oh, once upon a time, there was one Alicorn that was good, and there was another Alicorn that was bad. It's unfortunately, again, it's only a discussion of good and evil. It's like, yeah, there have been good people, and there have been bad people, and Doc Anubis, the person who's been releasing these episodes, went through the source material, and his conclusion was basically that, yeah, this was not Celestia and Luna, there's some other ponies, which I have to totally agree with. So, sorry every ponies. It's almost a circumstantial thing, but if you go through the animatic, there's points where it says good Alicorn, bad Alicorn, and while that doesn't necessarily prove that this isn't Celestia and Luna, it kind of indicates that it does. So it's just a good Alicorn and a bad Alicorn. So, yeah, I have to agree with Doc Anubis that I think that a representation of forces of good and evil. This is what you could do as a good Alicorn, and this is what you could do as a bad Alicorn. So, no. It's tempting to change Sunny's line from, is there bad inside me, to could I be bad? Because the truthful answer is like, yes, there's technically bad inside of us. There's all things that we're not proud of and things that we wish weren't there, but clearly are. But it really does feel more like, could I be a bad pony? Could I become the next Opaline and do all these horrible things to ponies? That would be a very scary thought, to think that you could turn into the very villain that they've been fighting all this time and do all these horrible things to ponies. So, and I think especially when you're a child and you do something wrong, there's this thought of that, oh, I did this bad thing, I must be this terrible, horrible person. So, aww. Which of course is not the case. I'm reminded of this show called Ghost Rider that was on ages ago, and one of their stories was basically this girl goes and takes money from the family cash register to buy this costume, and with this like scheme to, I'll return the costume and get the money back when I'm done with it, and then it all falls flat. So now she's effectively committed theft, and she thinks that everyone is gonna hate her and never want to be her friend again and have nothing to want to do with her and stuff. And of course none of that happens, and sure, she gets punished in the end, she gets grounded, she has to, take the money out of her allowance and stuff. But the moral of the story really is that just because you did a bad thing doesn't make you a bad person, and everyone deserves a second chance. While, yeah, all that in some ways is kind of off topic for this particular episode, it's really more about Sunny's fear that the things that were inside of Opaline could be inside her, and she could basically turn into Opaline. But I still liked that thought and that problem that children go through. Obviously, children are children. They're still learning about so many things, and even what does make someone good and what makes someone bad, and all those sorts of things. So while yes, this is a difficult discussion to have, and in some ways it can't really be done in the context of a 5-minute episode, a 20-minute episode, or perhaps maybe even a single episode, but I'm glad that they had this discussion and, basically reassured, Sunny and possibly the audience as well that none of us are perfect, but that doesn't make us bad ponies. As the mysterious voice says, the choice is yours. And Sunny has chosen to be the most kind, loving, and most amazing pony like ever. This is why she has these Alicorn powers, because they weren't a reward for like a job well done. They were granted to her as tools to continue to do what she's always been doing for her entire life, which is to bring the ponies together and help to make the world of Equestria a better place for every pony. And that is why she's an Alicorn. So, roar! A difficult topic to discuss, but I think in its most basic form, the lesson of this episode really is that yeah, we're not perfect, but we all have a choice whether to be good or evil. And of course, when you have amazing friends like Misty, this makes this so much easier. Misty is trying to tell her, it's like, what are you talking about, Sunny? You are like the most amazing pony ever. You've been nothing but kind to every pony. You turned my life around. And then we get away in some ways from the good and evil thing into more of how Sunny's feeling, but it must be really scary being the only Alicorn. And Misty totally gets that because she was was literally locked away. She was the minion of this very supervillain that they were trying to fight against. So Misty was the perfect pony to, you know, basically help Sunny through this. She's asked the same questions that she's asked, and she learned the very thing that Sunny's learning now, is that what makes you good and bad is your choices and how you choose to treat others around you. And Sunny and Misty have chosen to be incredibly loving and good ponies. So and I think that's overall why I kind of really like this episode. It's not about who these Alicorns are and what they did and all those sorts of things that I think we normally are interested in. What makes this episode interesting is, how is Sunny feeling? Sunny finally gets the answer to the question that she's asking, and at first is not entirely prepared to, in some ways, deal with it and or understand it. She's been shown two very different paths that she could go down. She could be this incredible force for good and help ponies, or she could turn to the dark side and be this terrible, horrible pony that does terrible, horrible things to every pony. That scares her, and seeing her friend Misty help her through that and reassure her, it's like, no, you could never be a bad pony, because that's not who you are. You've chosen to be this incredible, amazing pony that's helped not only me, but so many other ponies. And that's why you're an amazing pony, and why you deserve to be an Alicorn. So, roar! The thing with the winking eye at the end, it could just be dramatic. I mean, like, grrr. It could also be, you know, just a sign that, you know what, the struggle against the forces of good and evil doesn't, quote-unquote, ever end. So that can be slightly discouraging, but at the same time, as long as we continue to struggle against evil, we will continue to win. So, roar. But I actually kind of liked another thought of that. What if this is, you know, in some ways, evil being defeated? Where's Sunny? Oh, Sunny's leaving. Ugh, that's it. I'm going to sleep now. But in any case, this episode was perhaps a very heavy episode, because again, yeah, it's only a discussion of good and evil, so I don't see why that should be difficult. Yeah, it was a difficult discussion, but it was a discussion that I think Sunny really needed to have, because she's been asking these questions for so long. What does it mean to be an Alicorn? And for the first time, someone or something has actually answered her, and while she didn't, I think, like the answer that she got, fortunately, she had an incredible friend to be there for her and help her through it, and show that in the end that no, she's not a bad pony, she's an amazingly good pony, because that's who she's decided to be. That's why she's not only an amazing pony, but also an amazing Alicorn, and I look forward to seeing the next step in Sunny's Alicorn journey. So I look forward to seeing more. So that is the end of my Afterthoughts review of the Alicorn Path. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you for commenting, liking, subscribing, and until next time, this is Blue Star. Stay strong and pony on. Blue Star out.